Everyone. I am Melissa Bourbon, and this is WriterSpark Academy's Craft Chat half hour. And today we are talking with Linda Lovely, who is a neighbor of mine in the neighboring state of South Carolina. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about your publishing background and the books that you write?
Well, I was a journalism major in college and spent most of my career writing PR and magazine feature articles and advertising. So I was not unacquainted with writing fiction.
Yeah.
And so about 10 years ago, I finally decided that it was time to do what I really wanted to do and write fiction. And my 10th novel will be published in November. It will be the second in my homeowner association mystery series.
Congratulations.
And with Level Best Books. And I'm having a lot of fun writing it. I've had a lot of fun writing the other books. I've written one historical suspense. The rest are contemporary.
Are they part of a series as well?
I have 3 series. The first one is the Marley Clark mystery series, and those are set down on the Lowcountry coast.
Mm-hmm.
And the heroine is a retired military intelligence officer. The second series is more steamy. It's romantic thrillers, and it's Smart Women, Dumb Luck series.
Oh, that's awesome. Love that.
And again, I had fun writing those. And then I did a series for Henry Press. And my heroine in that one is a vegan chef who goes to live with her aunt who owns a goat cheese farm.
Oh, fun. Are you vegan?
I was tempted to write this because our doctor, family doctor who is vegan, talked my husband into doing it for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And after that, we could no longer give up cheese.
That would be the hardest thing. Yeah, we're gluten-free for the most part in our house. We've got a couple kids with celiac, and we've been gluten-free for a long time. And also, dairy is not generally my friend, but it's so much easier to give up gluten than cheese. Oh my gosh, I can't do it.
And then the new series is the one with, as I say, this one is also set in the Lowcountry of South Carolina. And my heroine is a retired Coast Guard investigator who lives on a boat in the Beaufort Marina downtown.
Oh, so that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Have you always been in South Carolina?
No, I grew up in Iowa. In fact, I just wrote a blog this weekend on why no matter where my heroines lived, they always grew up in Iowa.
I see, yeah. A little personal history.
But I have lived in the South now for over 40 years. So
okay, all right. We love it out here. We've only been here 3 years, but we love it. So, all right, we are going to talk about why it's important to do research when you're writing fiction, which I think is a great topic because it's not something that we automatically associate with writing fiction. The need to do research and to be authentic in what we're presenting, whether it's a career or the history of a place or, whatever it is. So what's your take on that?
Well, the first thing I think I would say is my husband and I were watching the TV show 24. And at one point, they said they were flying over the mountains of Iowa.
Oh, my gosh, really?
And from that, we just cracked up. And, if you have something that is so wrong in whether it's a TV show or a manuscript, you're going to lose your audience in terms of them believing anything else. At one point in my career, I was producing newsletters for a number of corporations. One of them was a bank that wanted to do a newsletter for women entrepreneurs. And I did a lot of research, and I included a number from a government website that they could call for more information on federal help. Well, the website had been hacked, and it was a porn number.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
So I quickly learned that not even, if you're going to a government website, do you trust the information. You always call every number, you always double check
Trust but
the
verify,
information. And
right?
I never made a mistake like that again.
Oh, I bet. It only takes once,
It
right?
only takes one. That's right. So, again, I think the reasons that you want to do research when you're writing fiction is not to take the reader out of the story by having something they're going, what? That can't be, and making sure that it's accurate. They're going to mistrust information if you have something blatant in there. And the other thing about research, and I guess this is part of my history in terms of my career, but the research for me is more fun than the writing.
Mhm.
But it also suggests a number of ideas that you may not have ever had for plot and for what the characters are like, what they do, what their backgrounds are. And you can have a lot of fun with what you find. So
Yeah, that is so true. I write the book magic series, and there's a lot of Irish history in it. And as I do my research, inevitably I come up with new bits of information, new threads that can expand my plot or take something in a whole new direction.
right,
It just triggers things by doing that research, and things that you never could have plotted without
that's
that
right.
research. Yeah.
Areas that deserve extra care, technology, making sure that you have that right, and it changed so quickly that you really have to take care with that. Terminology, and a character's occupation. I was beta reading for another author recently, and they had a PI who had spent 2 weeks with another PI and become licensed. And I'm going, holy
Mhm.
moly, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, things like that, you're just not going to believe. Um,
And you will
so,
have readers that point it out.
yes,
They'll put that into the reviews, or you'll get nice emails that say, "This is wrong."
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Geography and setting are another one. And weather events. If you're going to have a hurricane, make sure that it's not in January when they don't occur on the coast. You just have to look at those things, whether they're and then if you're including a well-known organization. In my book that's coming out in November, I have an FBI agent's involvement in the story. So I had an recently retired FBI agent beta read for me to make sure that what I said about the involvement could have happened. Maybe not every time, but at least it could have happened. So that's
So how did you get in touch with that retired FBI agent? Do you have a tip
well,
about that?
I actually have a number of friends now that are retired FBI agents. This one in particular is also an author, but I've been a longtime member of Sisters in Crime,
Mhm.
and I was chapter president of our upstate South Carolina chapter. And we had a speaker every month that was either in law enforcement or some other related field, in addition to authors. And, you just call up people and say, gee, we need to have somebody from the FBI come and speak. And lo and behold, they come and speak. And then one of the women that came to speak to us has since retired. She lives in Greenville, and her husband is also an ex FBI agent. And she, until COVID, was also coming to our meetings because she found they were fun.
Mhm.
So you have people that are experts in areas. And then you also have a lot of opportunities with organizations, and I'll get into this a little bit more later, but there's a group on uh, that is Crime Scene Writer 2, where you can just write in and ask any question, and they have people that are defense attorneys and FBI agents. And I recently wrote them because I wanted a bomb that would be small and have a confined area of disturbance, but I wasn't quite sure how small it could be and how much the damage could be and where it could be placed, etc. And somebody writes you back and you get all the answers, and that's usually the best way to do it. And people love talking about their jobs or what they used to do. So
Yeah, that's interesting because I actually wrote to a coin expert because I had a question about ancient coins
yeah,
for one of my books. This was about, I don't know, 9 months, 12 months ago. And yeah, within 24 hours, he got back to me, he answered my question, and it was great. So I think the idea is just don't be afraid to get out there
right.
and ask people for what you might need. People are willing to help.
Um, as far as information sources, as I said earlier, just because it's on the internet, it doesn't mean that it's correct.
Right.
So one of the things to be careful of is to look at the information sources, see if they are, and there is something called Google Scholar, which you can put on your website too, that goes to scholarly websites that are vetted, if you will, in terms of the information and where it's coming from. And, Wikipedia is a great place to start, but that isn't where you should stop
Yeah.
because all of the information is not necessarily, it's composed by people writing in information and it's updated and changed. And you really need to look at other sources. Despite the fact that everything seems to be digital these days, librarians are a terrific source of information. And actually going to a library, if you're looking at historical things, is invaluable in terms of either looking at microfilm of old newspaper articles, whatever. I don't know how many of the readers or potential authors here would be writing history, historical fiction, but that has a whole different number of ways that you can research things. So
And I think a depth of understanding because historical, I mean, that there's just so much more to consider when you're writing something historical versus, understanding the elements of a job of an FBI agent currently.
well, and I think too with historical, one of the challenges is to avoid author intrusion. Bringing feminist ideas from now into 17th century, or it just, you've got to be very careful that your mindset is where the culture was at that point in time. So you can have a character that's a little outside of the boundaries and pushing them, but um, it can't be totally out of context for the times.
Great tip.
I One of the things for contemporary things is social media, and when I decided that I wanted my heroine in this new series to be ex Coast Guard, I went on Facebook and I looked at for groups that had Coast Guard in the heading. And I was predominantly looking for Coast Guard retirees because my heroine is a Coast Guard retiree at age 50.
Mm-hmm.
And once I found them, I looked at who the administrators were, and then I direct messaged them and asked them if I could do interviews with them, and gave them my credentials and where they could check me out, my website, etc. And you hear back usually, as you say, within 24 hours that they're willing to talk with you.
Yeah.
So and there are also a lot of PR opportunities with the organizations themselves, depending on what type of organization it is. As I said, my character lives on a boat, so I also contacted the PR organization. I had gone to a marina and they had suggested the type of boat that she would live on, given her probable income status
Yeah.
as being a retiree and a single woman. And so then I called the boat manufacturer's PR line and asked them for, information and pictures on the boat and what the interior was like. So there are all kinds of, opportunities there.
That's brilliant.
So it's, as I said, and it's a lot of fun. You find out things. In my book that's with the publisher now that will be out in November, I had I wanted to have a yacht involved in it, and I I wanted the yacht borrowed for the day. So my husband and I were over in Hilton Head, and I won't say which harbor master I went to talk to, but I went and talked with harbor masters, and I said, "This is what I'm planning to do in my plot. Is it plausible?" And they said, "Oh yeah, it's very easy to borrow a yacht for a day without anybody knowing about it." And I went, "Wow."
Yes, I have a friend who has a houseboat on at a marina lake in Texas, and she tells me crazy stories, and that's one of them about
Yeah.
this young couple who borrowed a houseboat for a couple of days actually, and then suddenly, it was back in its slip and they were gone.
Well, if it's moored there and the people are not there, the harbor master, depending on how many boats or yachts are in the marina, they see boats come in and go all the time out of there, and unless the owner has told them to look for something suspicious, even if the owner is out of town, they said a lot of times that while they're doing whatever, they might arrange for somebody to pick up their boat to do a sea trial or look at repairs or
Yeah,
whatever. So,
right.
as long as they check the boat in the morning and it's there, and they check it at night and it's there,
Who knows what happens in between?
who knows what happens? If they fill the gas tank back up, that's
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
the clue. So, but yeah, the fun of looking at all of those. So let's see, social media. What else? Oh, ask your friends. I mean, it's amazing how many people that have family members that are firemen, policemen, accountants, whatever profession you're looking for, that say, do you know somebody in this, and would they talk to me? So um, I in this series, the Homeowner Association Mystery Series, I had met a woman who owned an HOA management company actually in North Carolina. And she was in a book club that I spoke to. And that was actually what gave me the original idea for this series.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, I was in contact with another HOA manager who had read my first book, and he said, "I've met all your characters." So I've since, tapped him also for ideas on what shenanigans could go in, and what could happen, and what is and isn't feasible.
Probably
So
more than we could ever imagine, right?
yes.
Stranger than fiction things.
um, and the other thing is, if you have a setting for your book, and you're at a point where, let's say, you want a murder to occur, or want somebody to try to kill somebody with something. When I was doing a story the setting was a golf course, and I wanted the villain to try to kill the heroine in this case. I just called the local golf course and asked for the maintenance department and said, if you were going to try to kill somebody, what piece of machinery would you use? And they laughed, and then they told me, and then I tried it out. So I was invited to take a ride.
Oh my gosh. Is there ever a moment when they're just kind of flabbergasted at the question?
Well, yeah, but they usually laugh. You say,
Yeah.
I'm a writer. This isn't actually what I'm planning to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Rest assured, nobody's going to actually die.
So, and one of the other fun ones that I had was when I was writing the Brie Hooker series, which was the vegan chef. I talked to another writer friend of mine to do goat yoga. I don't know
Oh,
whether
yeah.
you've
Yeah.
heard of goat yoga,
Oh, yes.
but that's one of the examples of something that morphed into a plot point. At first, I was just going to include it as sort of a funny thing that they were trying to make some extra money and having goat yoga. And then I went online and I looked at other goat farms that had goat yoga, and I looked at the comments underneath, and I saw that there were comments from people that were saying that it was a form of devil worship. And
Oh, okay.
and I went, what? But
Let's verify that.
they said, the goat was a symbol in the Bible. It went on and on. And so that developed into a side plot that we had people protesting the goat yoga
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
for saying it was devil worship. So, you never know what you're going to find out when you start doing the research. So,
Yeah, and where those ideas come from, that's one question I think all authors get is where
yeah,
do you get your ideas? And it's not from one place. They're just so random. You get
that's
a
right.
spark of an idea here and a spark of an idea there, and then you can mold them together into something else. Or it's just so random. Devil
Yeah, I
worship.
never would have thought of this had I not,
Yeah, right.
encountered it. So, and I guess that is one of the points that I would say is if you have um, your book set in a location, either go there in person and experience it, or if you can't, if you have your heart set on having a location somewhere where you can't go,
Mhm.
uh, Google and even Zillow now, you can go down to street level views and see what it's like. And then the other way to make sure that you're being accurate is to, go to the chamber website or what a tourism website for the area. Um, and don't just look at what they're promoting for tourism,
Mhm.
but look at, you can look up weather statistics, what the average highs and lows are for the time of year when you have it set. You can look at when the sun rises and sun sets. And so you make sure that if it's in February, that you don't have somebody at sunset at 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Yeah. The little
So
thing.
that those are accurate. And then another thing is you can either go to master landscapers websites, and a lot of the universities have the extension services, and look at what's blooming, what times of year, and what grows in the area. So again, you don't have something that just could not survive in the area where you have it.
That's
Um,
a great idea.
Probably my best example, one of the romantic thrillers that I wrote was set in Jamaica. And I had visited there because my sister and brother-in-law lived there for 7 years. So uh, I had visited a number of places that were definitely off the tourist track.
Mhm.
But my brother-in-law casually mentioned, well, you could hide a body in a cave here. And so I started doing research on the caves, and I became a pen pal with the head of the Jamaican Caves organization.
Wow.
And he sent me tons of videos of their descents into caves so that you could actually look at, and they're talking while they're descending and what's happening. And you get a real sense of what it's like to be in one of the caves and how scary the descents are and stuff. So I ended up not just hiding a body there, but having a whole chase scene.
But you didn't have to
No, but I
go
didn't have
into
to
the
do it.
caves yourself. So yeah, okay. And so that's such a great thing that we have access to now is videos and YouTube and things
Right,
where we can really be right there experiencing it because other people have done it and are posting it,
right, right.
which is great.
Yeah, my heroines are always much braver than me, but they usually do share some of my phobias, and one of them, for example, is heights.
Yeah.
And descending down into a cave over a cliff would not be something that I would be wild to do.
No, I'm with you there.
So, on the crime fiction side, I think the other important thing is if you have a chance, sign up for either going to a local police academy, Citizens Police Academy. They're usually a month long and maybe one day a week that you would go and they teach you various things and you get
Mhm.
to learn about how the local police work. And then I was also, for about 7 years, helped organize the Writers Police Academy, which meets once a year. And again, you have access to all types of not only experts, but you get hands on experience. I don't own a gun. I don't want to own a gun,
Mhm.
but I learned how to shoot an AR-15. Learned how to shoot a Glock. I went into with a quote SWAT team into a building and had the shield and
Wow.
so
Exciting. Yeah, I
you
have
know
a
you,
friend who's done that and she said it was invaluable.
yeah, I mean um, you get the emotional feelings even though it's pretend. you know you never know whether somebody's going to jump out when you're doing that SWAT raid and
Right.
making sure that you're trying to follow protocol. And then they also have the invaluable shoot don't shoot scenarios that the cops do,
Mhm.
which basically you have the screen and you have your Glock or gun has a laser on it. So, you're watching this scene and you have to decide whether or not you shoot, whether it's going to endanger a civilian, or if you don't shoot, if the bad guy or woman is going to kill somebody. So, you really get a sense of how difficult those decisions are and how split second. And I must say that I did kill one civilian.
Oh, no. I'm sure that going through that really helps put in your mind as an author what somebody would be thinking and feeling, even in that very
That's
split
right.
second,
Yeah.
everything that's going on before that decision is made,
Yeah.
which is powerful.
Yeah.
For you to have experienced it and to have been in those shoes makes your writing that much more authentic in that
Yeah.
moment.
So that's another recommendation I would have. There are many more on the historical side that I could recommend. The one historical suspense I wrote was set in 1938, which is not that long ago in terms of there were still a lot of movies, Clark Gable,
Mhm.
whatever, and I had my mom's sheet music from the era, which had a lot of pictures and the lyrics. And, you go to the movies that were popular back in the 30s, go to the catalogs and ads, and you can see, that it was 25 cents to buy a coat or
Right.
what the prices were for things and what was popular and what was selling. And then going through the newspapers, the microfiche at that time of what was being reported and how people felt about it, um, was terrific in terms
Yeah.
of
It gives you context for the era and what life was like.
um, I went back to this is set in my hometown, which is Keokuk, Iowa. And I went back to the library there and went through, all of I knew it was going to be set during a street fair, which was something that happened in my hometown starting in the 1800s until I left for college. So I knew that was the primary event of the social event of the year, and I wanted to have it set then. So I went back to the period in 1938, the 2 weeks that the street fair actually occurred then. And I looked at what acts were performing and what was going on. And what I was amazed to find out was that year, which I had no idea of, the Mississippi flooded at a time that it normally never floods. So there was a whole other side menu that I could, go on in terms of the end of the novel and what was happening. But probably the most fun though still was, you would think, okay, well, you can't do any in-person interviews. Well, that's not entirely true. I had friends in Keokuk that introduced me to people that were in their 80s and 90s. And they were little kids back then, or they recalled what their parents and grandparents told them. So you had a lot of stories that never, of course, would make the newspaper for what it was like, and where the gambling dens were. And one of the ladies that I interviewed was so much fun. She said she was about 5, and they used to go to the library. And she said, of course, we went right back to the end of the library, and we looked through the library windows because there was a house of ill repute behind the library, and we wanted to see what was hanging in terms of the wash.
Wow.
Their lingerie hanging
like that.
on the lines.
Yeah.
So
again, things you just might not think of to put in there. Yeah.
And those little details add a lot, I think, to a story in terms of what it was actually like to live in. And then, of course, you've got letters and that people have written to each other, and books that were written at the time, and a lot of value in actually seeing what the language was then. And there are places you can go for slang too, for what people were saying in terms of slang in the 1930s.
Mm-hmm. And even books that were published during that period to see how language was put together, which is so different than it is now.
Yeah. That's right.
So if you had to condense things down, you've given us so many great tips. I don't know if you can kind of condense it down to 3 or 4 like key things to remember as you're researching for fiction.
I think the biggest thing is have fun researching, use multiple kinds of research. But when you get it all, remember that the research is background. It's not your story. There are books that I read where you can tell that the author spent hours and hours looking up dress or whatever from an era, and they have to put in every detail. And, you have to ask yourself, I want to give the flavor, but I don't want to bore my reader or make them think that this is a compendium of information or history. So I think that's the most important thing, is to use your research sparingly and to know when is too much.
Great point. All right. Well, thank you, Linda.
Well, you're welcome
for being here. Such great tips. Thanks for being here, everybody. And we'll see you at the next craft chat.